Welcome back. I'm Jim Zogby. My next guest is David Mark. He's a senior editor for the Politico newspaper and website, former editor-in-chief of Campaigns and Elections magazine, and a former reporter for Congressional Quarterly and the Associated Press. I'm going to hold up a copy here of, let's close in on this, Politico. Took the city by storm. You're in your second year and you're doing very well with it. And it's actually assembled a great cast of characters.
Well, we picked a good year to start out. Couldn't ask for a better Democratic nominating contest.
You have a book on negative campaigning.
Yes.
We talked about that a little bit in the last show. But the question I ask is, how does this campaign, I don't want to go back to the 1800s when they were god-awful dirty, but how does this campaign so far to date, we haven't even gotten into the general, compare with recent years as a primary? Is this a dirty primary?
Not particularly. I think it's reasonably civil and genteel. Yes, there have been some shots between Senators Obama and Clinton. They've gone after each other's voting records, their stance on issues. But there's a minefield of information that could be gone into deeper. We saw a bit of this with the Jeremiah Wright business, but there's all kinds of things from Hillary Clinton's past that Barack Obama could go into if he so chose, for whatever reason he's chosen not to. So I think they're refraining in a lot of ways.
Well, I'm going to get into that in a minute, but on the Democratic side, Clinton said the other day, Bill Clinton said the other day, he said, and I was going to get the quote up and I didn't, but it is most of the people said, what the people have said about this campaign is wrong, including who's been more positive and who's been more negative, and then goes on to say that Hillary's been the victim of negative campaigning by Obama instead of what the perception is, actually, that it's the other way around. He then said in another interview that it was the Obama people who played the race card on him, not Clinton who played the race card on Obama. Sort that out a little bit. I mean, what would be the correct perception?
Well, as I say in the opening chapter of the book, negative campaigning is in the eye of the beholder. It all depends on whose perspective you're coming at it from. I think Bill Clinton would define any opposition to Hillary Clinton, any call for change, as negative campaigning against her. How Barack Obama has played the race card that's a tough one to figure out. I'm not quite sure where the former president is coming from on that one.
The Reverend Wright thing, if ever there was something a candidate didn't need,
yes,
it was 4 days of Reverend Wright this week, it literally sucked up the airwaves were nothing but Reverend Wright. Barack said his opponents were using Wright's radical views because they can't win on issues. They want to make an election about my values, ideas, and character. Is he right, and does it stick?
Well, again, that's a matter of definition. That's a classic tactic of kind of playing the victim, saying when charges that are brought up that I think in some ways are legitimate, to say, try and turn the tables and go after the accusers. I think it is sticking. I've always thought that this would not hurt Senator Obama, particularly in the Democratic primary, because while the average Democrat by no means agrees with a lot of Wright's views, I think that they might be more willing to see him as kind of the crazy uncle in the attic, whereas I think a lot of general election voters maybe are more centrist, more even conservative, and they're going to have a very different view of it. So I think Obama will survive this, but he's going to have, we haven't heard the last of this. It's going to come up in the general election.
Okay. One of the things that intrigued me is I was reading an interview with you, and you were talking about the role of negative campaigning serving two purposes. One is drive up your votes, and the other is suppress the other guy's votes by sort of discouraging them or making them feel defeated or angry or whatever. This is happening in a primary on the Democratic side, and turnouts have been through the roof. I mean, Democrats have never seen registration and mobilization of voters and turnout the way they have. But we're now finding these numbers that suggest Hillary Clinton voters saying, I won't vote for Barack Obama. Barack Obama voters saying, I won't vote for Hillary Clinton. Have Democrats suppressed their own vote for November?
I'm actually dubious of a lot of those numbers because I think in the end, they're Democrats. Not that they want to be taken for granted, but what choice do they really have? It's either vote for the nominee, even if you're not that wasn't your first choice, or for John McCain, who has very different views on the Iraq War, foreign policy, healthcare, many other issues. Just like conservatives, even if they're not thrilled with John McCain, are they really going to go vote for Barack Obama or Hillary Clinton? So a few at the margins may stay home, but in the end, I suspect they will vote for their own party's nominee.
I think you're right about the right thing not going away and certainly creeping up back, but Obama has not, you're right, used the Clinton years, something that Democrats I don't think would tolerate, talking about, not Monica, but talking about Travelgate or Rosegate or Whitewater or the pardons and the issues of that sort. Republicans will probably use those in the fall if Hillary's the nominee.
They will, but I think they've got to be real careful with that because it's going to look like old news unless they dig out some new information that we haven't read over the years in books, on the internet, et cetera. I think it's going to be tough to really put a new spin on that. I think people who would vote against Hillary Clinton for those reasons were not likely to vote for her in the first place.
Now, the Democrats have, as a party, engaged in some of their own negative campaigning with John McCain on this 100 years in Iraq. Be honest, I'm not a fan of John McCain, but that's not what he said. Right. Is that going to stick?
Here again, I think the Democrats have to be careful to not go overboard with this. John McCain has a pretty good rebuttal for this. I understand what he was trying to say in that statement. He didn't express it particularly well, as you note. So I think the Democrats will be careful not to push this too far. I think, frankly, they have enough grounds for criticism for him just on his general Iraq war stance, even moving away from that one comment saying that he wants to keep troops there, escalate the surge. I think enough people agree with the Democrats on those issues that if they just stick to the issues, the facts, they'll be in good shape.
Now, the negative campaigning that we're used to is television advertising.
Right.
And we've seen a lot of it.
Right.
In the past, and we probably will see more of it, the swift boating, et cetera, as we go forward. We've already seen a little this time. But you note the new phenomenon of internet and blogging, which creates a world of its own. Narrowcast, to be sure, people select out, I want to go to that site to get my anger